Hello, welcome to Unbelievable Tales.
What would you do if you found a child asleep on a bench outside your office, with nothing but a backpack and a note that said, "His name is Caleb. Graham Lennox built his life on control, rules, and keeping emotions out of business." But the moment he saw those wide, quiet eyes staring back at him, something shifted. There was no mother in sight, no name to call, just a child who didn't cry, didn't speak, and didn't leave. What followed wasn't charity. It was something deeper, a silent bond, a past he thought was buried, and a future he never imagined needing until now. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. It was nearly midnight when Graham stepped outside the building. The winter wind sliced sharp between the downtown towers, scattering fast food wrappers along the sidewalk. He pulled his coat tighter and adjusted his scarf without thinking. His mind was still in the boardroom, quarterly reports, a merger teetering on collapse, and a CEO who drank too much during negotiations. He was halfway to his car when he saw the shape on the bench. At first, he thought it was a pile of discarded clothes, the kind city workers cleared away by dawn. But then it moved. A small hand slipped out of the folds. Then a face. A boy, maybe 6 or 7, curled up like a stray, one cheek pressed to a stuffed bear so worn its eye was missing. His backpack was gripped tight in his arms. A cracked plastic water bottle sat beside him. Graham froze. The street was empty. No cars passed. No one called out. Just the hum of a distant generator and the rustle of wind through bare branches. He knelt down slowly. "Hey," he said, voice low but steady. "Are you lost?" The boy opened his eyes. Big, brown, and still. He didn't answer. Graham glanced up and down the street again, scanning for movement. "Where are your parents?" "Nothing." He reached for his phone, already pulling up the non-emergency line, when he noticed the paper tucked into the front pocket of the boy's coat, just visible enough to catch his eye. He hesitated, then carefully pulled it free. It was folded twice and had no envelope. The ink was faded, the handwriting rushed but familiar. He read the note once, then again. "You once said if I needed help, you'd be there. His name is Caleb." That was it. No signature. No phone number. No explanation. Graham stood slowly, phone forgotten. His breath misted in the cold, matching the sudden fog that gathered behind his eyes. He hadn't heard from her in over 7 years. "Do you know who wrote this?" he asked. The boy blinked once, then looked away. "Is your name Caleb?" A slow nod. "Are you hurt?" A shake of the head. "Are you hungry?" Another nod. Graham exhaled through his nose. He was not the kind of man who made impulsive decisions. He had routines, filters, protocols. There were lawyers for things like this. Authorities. Protocols. But none of them were here. And the boy was. He unlocked his car. "Come on," he said. "We'll get warm first. Then figure things out." The boy hesitated, then climbed off the bench, hugging the bear and his backpack close. He didn't speak, just followed. In the car, Graham turned the heat up and handed over the extra scarf he kept in the glove compartment. The boy wrapped it 3 times around his neck and sank into the seat like it might swallow him whole. They drove in silence. At the first light, Graham glanced over. Caleb was staring out the window, not watching the city, just surviving it. The apartment wasn't meant for guests. It was spare, high floor, immaculate. A place designed for sleep and paperwork. Graham flicked on the lights, set the security code, and motioned inside. Caleb stepped in, pausing just past the threshold like he wasn't sure if this was real. "You can leave your shoes on," Graham said. "Kitchen's that way. I think I have soup." 15 minutes later, the boy sat at the counter with a warm bowl and a slice of dry toast. He ate slowly, methodically, never asking for more, never saying thank you. Graham leaned on the far side of the island, watching without watching. "Do you know where your mom is?" he asked finally. No answer. "Do you know who I am?" A pause. Then the faintest shrug. Graham sighed. "I'm going to make some calls in the morning. See if we can reach someone." Still no response. After the dishes were cleared, Graham pulled a blanket from the closet and laid it on the sofa. Caleb watched him from the hallway, eyes never leaving the edges of the room. "You can sleep here tonight," Graham said. "Bathrooms there. Lights on a sensor." The boy didn't move. Do you need anything else? A beat. Then, so quiet it almost didn't happen. Where's the woman? Graham turned. What woman? The one who said you'd help. His chest tightened. She's not here. Caleb nodded once, slow and deliberate, like that answer hurt but didn't surprise him. Later, when Graham lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the note sat on his nightstand beside his phone. The handwriting swam in and out of focus. 7 years since the last time he saw her. 8 since they said goodbye. And now this. In the other room, a boy with a silent mouth and tired eyes clutched a bear missing one eye and didn't cry. Graham didn't sleep. Couldn't. In the morning, Caleb was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the couch, his bear in his lap and the TV remote untouched beside him. Graham made coffee and poured juice into a glass he hadn't used in years. I can take you to the police, he said. Or we can try to find someone else. If you tell me her name. The boy didn't look at him. Just traced the seam of the bear's paw with one finger. I can't help if you don't talk. Caleb met his eyes then. And said softly, you helped her once. Graham's breath caught. Then, for the first time, the boy looked at the toast on the counter and asked, Can I have 2 this time? He nodded. Of course. By the second morning, Caleb had already memorized where the spoons were, how many steps it took from the couch to the fridge, and that Graham never finished his coffee. He never asked questions. He never wandered, but he also never left. He stayed quiet, present, and slightly hunched, like a boy trying to take up as little space as possible in a world that hadn't left him much. Graham made the calls, the ones responsible people made. First, the non-emergency line. Then missing persons, then child welfare. But no alerts had been filed for a boy named Caleb. No match on descriptions. No one reported a mother missing or abandoning or reaching out. The only note was the one Graham kept in his inside blazer pocket, folded along the same crease it had the night he found it. He didn't tell the boy what he learned. Caleb didn't ask. Instead, on the 4th morning, Caleb asked if he could help butter the toast. He held the knife awkwardly, too tight, but his hands didn't shake. You know you're not staying here forever, Graham said, not unkindly. Right? Caleb didn't answer. He spread the butter with the quiet diligence of someone used to doing things alone. Later that day, Graham had to go in for a meeting. He hesitated by the door longer than usual, briefcase in hand, keys clenched too tight. You'll stay inside? He asked. Caleb nodded. I don't go out alone. I'll be back by 4. There's fruit in the fridge and a number on the counter if, he stopped. Caleb was already sitting cross-legged on the couch, reading the label on a cereal box. Not looking at him. Graham left anyway. The office was a different kind of silence. People walked on soft shoes with firm decisions, and the air smelled like glass cleaner and too much ambition. His assistant raised an eyebrow when he walked in. You're late, she said. I know. You're never late. Consider this a new era. She blinked. Everything okay? Graham adjusted his tie. I'm hosting a guest. He didn't elaborate. And she didn't ask. But the words lingered in the room longer than they should have. After the meeting, he lingered by the window watching traffic crawl along the avenue. His phone buzzed twice, first a text from the firm's media team, then an invitation to a fundraising gala he didn't want to attend. He deleted both. At home, Caleb was exactly where he'd left him. But the cereal box was empty, the TV was playing something too loud for its volume setting, and a sketch lay on the counter, a scribbled bear with one missing eye. Graham paused. Did you draw this? Caleb shrugged. Sort of. You're good. I draw when I think. What are you thinking about? The boy didn't answer. That night, Graham reheated soup and added toast without asking. Caleb accepted both, head tilted slightly like he was waiting for a catch. Do you remember her name? Graham asked again. The woman who brought you? She never brought me anywhere, Caleb said. His voice was low. She left. He didn't look up. Didn't explain. Graham stared at his own bowl, untouched. He didn't know what to say to that. The following weekend, Graham drove them to a nearby bookstore. It was early, quiet, the kind of place with rugs worn by readers and a small bell above the door. Caleb followed, still hugging the bear, though now it had a rubber band wrapped around the missing eye. What are we doing here? He asked. You said you like to draw. Let's find you something better than hotel notepads. Caleb trailed him to the art supplies aisle without a word. He picked a simple sketchbook, then a pencil set. He looked up once as if to check whether he was allowed to want something. Graham nodded. Back home, the boy flipped through the blank pages with a kind of reverence. He didn't draw right away. He just looked as if afraid to ruin them. Do you remember anything about your dad? Graham asked, not looking up from his laptop. Caleb shrugged. He wasn't there. You ever meet him? No. Did she ever talk about him? Sometimes. When she was mad. Graham closed his screen. At him. At everything. The boy drew a slow line down the page. She called me a storm once. Said I ruined things just by showing up. Graham's throat tightened. You didn't ruin anything. She didn't mean it, Caleb said, too quickly. She was tired. She shouldn't have said it at all. Caleb didn't reply. He just kept drawing. That night, Graham didn't sleep. Again. The bed felt colder now, somehow. He found himself on the couch, a blanket across his legs, listening to the soft scratch of pencil in the next room. The boy didn't make noise, but his presence was everywhere. In the dishes drying in the rack, in the scarf he left on the hook, in the way the apartment felt less like a display case and more like a place someone lived. 3 days later, Graham's assistant knocked once, then entered his office. There's a woman in the lobby asking about you. He looked up. Who? She won't give her name. Says she needs to speak to you about a family matter. His heart jumped. Send her up. But the woman who entered was not who he expected. She was older, maybe early 40s, with tired eyes and a tote bag full of flyers. You're Mr. Lennox? She asked. Yes. She pulled out a folded paper. A photo. Caleb. Standing in front of a soup kitchen. He used to come with his mother. We haven't seen her in weeks. I've been checking shelters, asking around. Then someone said they saw a man take him. I didn't take him, Graham said. He was alone. On a bench. She looked at him hard. Then softened. He's a good kid. Quiet. Never caused trouble. He's safe. With me. She nodded. He talks about you. Graham blinked. To you? To others. At the center. Said you were strict. Wore fancy socks. I do not wear fancy. She smiled. He also said he thinks you might be lonely. He paused. He said that kids notice more than we think. She left after giving him her number, in case he ever wanted to know more. About Caleb. About the mother. About what came before. That night, Graham found a note on the counter, written in pencil on the inside of a cereal box flap. Can I stay 2 more nights? No signature. But the bear was propped up next to it. And that was enough. Graham hadn't planned on staying late at the office, but the quiet became addictive. No TV murmuring from the next room. No soft shuffle of socked feet on the hardwood. No silent child curled up in the corner of the couch, sketching storms without names. He didn't know when he'd started noticing the absence more than the presence. But he felt it now. When he came home, Caleb was already asleep. Not on the couch this time, but in the guest room. The door half shut, a small fortress of pillows built at one end of the bed. The sketchbook lay open, face down. Graham peeked inside before turning out the light. It wasn't a drawing of the bear this time. It was a woman's face. Not exact, the lines were too hesitant, the shading uneven, but it was unmistakably her. The sharp cheekbones, the tired eyes. The same look she used to give Graham when she'd lost an argument but wouldn't admit it. He hadn't spoken her name aloud in years. Mira. It arrived in his chest like an echo, soft and late. She'd worked in the archives department of the same law firm where he was making partner. She was good at being invisible, which meant he noticed her right away. They were never in love, not the way people wrote about it. But they had something. A stretch of nights that blurred into each other. Honesty without intimacy. Or maybe the other way around. And then she left. No fight. No farewell. Just a voicemail saying she needed space and then nothing. He never looked for her. Not really. He told himself people who left didn't want to be found. He told himself a lot of things back then. Graham sat in the kitchen for a long time, staring at the same page in his planner, not reading, not planning. He poured himself a drink and let it sit untouched. In the morning, Caleb wandered in with hair standing in every direction and the bear tucked under one arm. Toast? Graham offered. 2, Caleb said, rubbing his eyes. They ate in companionable silence, broken only by the scrape of knives and the occasional crunch. Then Caleb said she used to drink tea. Not coffee. Graham looked up. Mira. She called it her thinking fuel. She said it helped her worry slower. That sounds like her. She worried a lot. I know. Caleb reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a crumpled, folded photo. This is the only one I kept. Graham took it carefully. It was faded, creased along the corners. Mira and Caleb on a park bench. She looked thinner, older. He looked younger, rounder cheeks, brighter eyes. She said you helped her once, Caleb said. But you didn't stay. Graham nodded slowly. I didn't know she needed me to. She didn't tell you? No. Would you have helped? The question hit harder than expected. I think so, he said. But sometimes, wanting to help isn't enough. You have to know how. She said you were good at pretending not to care. Graham exhaled. I was. You're not anymore. It wasn't praise. It was observation. They spent the afternoon at the park. Graham watched Caleb from a bench near the swings. Coffee in one hand, phone dark in the other. The boy didn't talk to the other kids. But he didn't run from them either. He kept near the edge, climbing the slide backwards just to sit at the top and watch. When they came home, there was a letter in the mail. Not typed. Handwritten. No return address. Just his name in that same familiar handwriting, the same slant, the same urgency. He opened it in the hallway. Graham, if you're reading this, then something happened. I'm sorry. I never meant for him to end up alone. His name is Caleb. I told him what I could. The rest you'll have to give him or not. I don't expect anything from you. You don't owe me. But you said once that you'd be there if I ever needed it, and I believed you. Maybe stupidly. Maybe stubbornly. But I did. Take care of him. Or at least give him the chance I couldn't. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, the paper softening between his fingers. He didn't hear Caleb approach until a quiet voice asked, was that from her? Graham nodded, not trusting his voice. What did she say? That she believed I'd be there for you. And are you? He looked up, meeting the boy's eyes. I want to be. That night, Caleb fell asleep on the couch mid-drawing. Graham lifted the sketchbook gently from his lap and flipped through the pages. There were sketches of the apartment, of the bench, of Graham from behind, sitting at the kitchen table, always turned slightly away. Then, on the last page, Caleb had drawn a triangle. At each corner, a letter. C-M-G. Graham traced it with his fingertip. A shape, a name, a hope. He closed the book and sat beside the boy until morning. The letter sat on the counter for 2 days before Graham could bring himself to move it. Not because he was afraid of what it meant, but because it felt like the last living trace of Mira. Her words pressed into paper. Her trust, folded and dropped into a mailbox with no guarantee it would land where it should. And now it had. And Caleb was here. And nothing about that felt like coincidence. On the 3rd day, the knock came. It was soft, polite, the kind meant to signal that something official was about to happen. Graham opened the door to find a woman in a navy coat, clipboard tucked beneath one arm, badge clipped to her lapel. Mr. Lennox? Yes. My name is Danaro. I'm with Child Protective Services. May I come in? He stepped aside. Caleb was in the bedroom, drawing. Graham didn't call him out. I understand you've been housing a minor, she said as she took a seat at the counter, not unkindly. Unofficially. He was abandoned. Outside my office. I did what I thought was safest. She nodded, taking notes. There was no missing person report. No formal custody. Nothing to indicate he had any legal guardian. I know. You understand that places him in the care of the state by default. Graham clenched his jaw. That child is not a number on your clipboard. No. He's a vulnerable minor. Which is exactly why I'm here. She set her pen down and looked him in the eye. He speaks highly of you. Graham blinked. Said you don't smile much, but you keep the cereal stocked. That's accurate. And that you listen, even when you pretend not to. He folded his hands. What happens now? We'll need to place him in temporary custody until we can determine next steps. No, Mr. Lennox. I'm filing for guardianship. That's a process. I'm aware. It involves background checks, home assessments, character references. Schedule them. Her brow lifted slightly. Are you serious? He has a sketchbook. There's a triangle in it. C-M-G. I'm the G. That's enough. She watched him for a long moment. That may be enough for you, but the system doesn't run on letters in sketchbooks. I know how systems work. I've built a few. You've never built one around a child. He paused. No, but I'm learning. Dana stood. I'll file the necessary paperwork. But in the meantime, he stays. She hesitated. Technically, you're not authorized. Technically, he's not safe with strangers. Another pause. Then she said, "We'll be in touch." When she left, Graham locked the door with more force than needed. Later that evening, Caleb stood in the hallway with a backpack half-zipped. "I can pack fast," he said quietly. "I've done it before." Graham knelt in front of him. "You're not going anywhere." "But the lady said," I said, "and I outrank her." "You do? In this house?" "Absolutely." Caleb stared at him, then unzipped the bag and pulled out the bear. "This button I was missing now, too." "It's okay," he said. "I can sew." Graham didn't laugh, but he wanted to. Instead, he sat beside the boy and said, "Tell me something about your mom." Caleb traced a seam on the backpack. "She used to make stories up. Long ones, like when the electricity got cut. She said it was because the city needed to borrow our lights for the parade downtown." "That's clever." "She always had stories." Graham looked at him. "You're allowed to keep them." Caleb nodded. "I don't want them to fade." "Then draw them." That night, they sketched together. Graham's attempt at a cat looked more like a boot, but Caleb didn't say anything. He just laughed under his breath and handed over a better pencil. 3 days later, Dana returned, this time with a colleague and a list. Graham answered every question, showed every room, pointed to where the cereal was, the medicine box, the emergency contacts. He didn't flinch when they asked about Mira. "I wasn't there," he said, "but I am now." When they left, Caleb watched them go from the window. "Did we pass?" he asked. "This isn't a test," Graham said. "Feels like one. It's more like applying for a title you already use." Caleb tilted his head. "What title?" "Family." The boy didn't reply, just leaned his shoulder against Graham's side for the briefest second before pulling away. That Sunday, Graham found a note under his coffee mug. In shaky letters, "Thank you for not packing my bag." No name, no triangle, just those words. And somehow it said everything. Spring came late that year. The mornings were still cold and the windows in Graham's apartment fogged around the edges as if the building itself wasn't ready to thaw. But Caleb started opening them anyway, just a crack. "The house needs to breathe," he said. Graham didn't argue. He let the chill in. It kept them awake. The guardianship hearing was scheduled for the second Friday of April. The lawyer Graham hired was brisk and competent, the kind of man who wore perfect collars and smelled faintly of old wood and dry confidence. "We have a strong case," he'd said. "Character references. Home stability. No biological claims. The state tends to favor continuity." But Graham didn't want favorable odds. He wanted certainty. Something courtrooms rarely gave. The night before the hearing, Caleb paced the hallway in socks that didn't match, gripping his bear like it still held magic. "Do I have to say anything tomorrow?" he asked. "Only if you want to." "What if they say no?" "Then we appeal." "Will that take a long time?" "Maybe." "What happens to me in the meantime?" Graham knelt beside him. "You stay. Until someone drags you out." Caleb didn't smile. But he didn't flinch either. The courtroom was smaller than Graham remembered. The kind with bad acoustics and windows that didn't open. Dana Rowe was there, nodding to him in quiet solidarity. Caleb sat beside him, legs swinging beneath the bench, too short to touch the floor. He wore a clean shirt and his most serious expression. The judge, a woman with kind eyes and a ruthless schedule, asked her questions efficiently. Graham answered all of them with care, precision, and just enough honesty. "Do you understand the responsibilities of full guardianship?" "Yes." "Do you accept them freely and without coercion?" "Yes." "Do you intend to provide financially, emotionally, and physically for the child?" "Yes." Then came Caleb's turn. The judge leaned forward. "And you, young man, do you wish to be placed under Mr. Lennox's care?" Caleb looked at Graham, then back at the judge, then down at his bear. He said nothing. Graham started to breathe in, to say it was okay, that silence could speak too. But then Caleb's voice rose, steady and soft. "I already am." The judge smiled. "Then it's done." There was no applause, no music, just a signed paper, a firm nod, and a weight that lifted. Not all at once, but enough. They went for ice cream afterward. Caleb insisted on sprinkles. Graham didn't argue. Back at the apartment, Caleb changed the name on his sketchbook cover from just C to CL, written in small, neat letters. What does the L stand for? Graham asked. Caleb shrugged. Loud? Lucky? Lennox. Lennox is a good guess. That night, Graham found a new drawing on the fridge. It was a triangle again, but fuller now. Each letter had legs like roots. The bear sat in the center. The following weeks passed like a deep breath held too long and finally released. Caleb painted a mural on the inside of his closet. Graham bought a plant that he forgot to water, but Caleb didn't. They got into the habit of arguing about breakfast options. Graham started keeping oat milk in the fridge even though he still didn't like it. On a rainy evening in May, Graham came home late to find Caleb sitting at the table sketching a city skyline. You're late, the boy said. Traffic. You always say traffic. Because there's always traffic. Caleb smirked. Dinner's cold. I'll survive. No promises. Graham sat across from him and watched the pencil move across the page. After a while, Caleb said, You're not like the dads in books. Thanks. You don't make pancakes. You don't sing. I can try. Please don't. Graham chuckled. Then quiet. Then Caleb whispered, Good night, Dad. Graham didn't answer at first. His throat tightened the way it did when silence had too much meaning. But then he said, Good night, kiddo. The furnace clicked on. The apartment warmed. And for the first time, Graham Lennox didn't feel like he was fixing a mistake. He felt home.
Bye, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.